of these people. So please bear with them and show them a little patience. No, this is not an open mic forum. For those of you who have questions that are not on this sheet, this is not the time and the place, because we do not have the expertise or the time to go through them, because it would take time for some of the most complex questions to be asked and answered. I will now hand you over to our moderator, Shaka. Thank you very much.
So we are gathered here on behalf of the residents, on behalf of Grenfell Walk, on behalf of the community to ask these questions. We are going to try and keep the questions very direct, so we get direct and clear answers, and we are asking these questions to a woman from the public health sector who is an expert in her field. She has volunteered to come down. We also invited the fire brigade, the police force, and TMO and RBKC, and they declined. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Yvonne Doyle. I'm a public health doctor. I cover all of London. Thank you very much for asking me here tonight. It's actually a privilege to be here. And I just want you all to know that the Public Health Service of London, which includes the doctors and nurses, the scientists, laboratory technicians who look after infections, the environment, drug and alcohol services, and your health improvement services, they are feeling for you. I just want you to know we're feeling for you. I can't say it any other way. You don't see us very often or at all, but we're with you, and I'm very glad I'm here. The second thing to say is that I can answer some of the questions, and I'm very happy to listen to all of them. If I can't answer them, I'll tell you that. I don't really want to chance my arm with answers that won't really bring you any further. On the other hand, what I will commit to do is to take these questions, and we're writing them down as well, and try and direct them to the people I know should be able to answer them for you, and then through Kim or whoever you designate, I will come back with the best answers I can get on your behalf. So I'm very sorry there isn't a full panel of experts here, but I'll do what I can, and I will also give you my views, actually, if that's helpful as well.
Thank you. So we also have Isis here, who is a community leader, I would say, and we have Eartha here, but would you like to just briefly introduce yourself further?
Greetings. So I'm Isis, I live about 10 minutes walk away. I am the Vice Chair of the Grenfell Action Group, and I'm also a member of Westway 23, One Voice. I've been based over at Bay 56 in Atom Village, and what we've been doing is on the ground support work, collecting food, clothing, etc., packaging up, making care packages, meeting with survivors and evacuees, and ensuring that they receive the support, the basic support that's possible. So I'm really here to talk about what's been going on in terms of the community organising and who's been talking to who, and what we're trying to establish, because there's the access to support for members of the community who've been affected by this, but there's also access to justice in terms of the campaigning.
Thank you. Good evening, guys. My name's Eartha Pond, and I am the Vice Chair of the Queen's Park Community Council, and that's not in rural borough of Kensington, Chelsea, but in the neighbouring borough of Westminster. My role here is I've just tried to fundraise and support as much as I can, trying to keep this issue in the media as much as possible, making sure that in the long term that we get the justice and there's a voice, and the voices that weren't heard previously are spoken up for, and hopefully we can get some sort of justice in the long run.
Cool, so with no further ado, we are going to start it. And the first question is from Hannah on behalf of Grenfell Walk. Hannah.
Thank you. We would like to know why other councils are sending survivors of Grenfell Tower and the surrounding areas forms to fill out. does this in any way, shape or form bind someone with the new council that may house them out of borough?
Okay, so I can't pretend to speak on behalf of RBKC or the TMO, and as we know, they refuse to come. With regards to the forms that are being filled out, my understanding is I've been liaising with the legal team, so I'm talking about the on-the-ground legal support around civil issues, which would be welfare benefits, immigration, and housing concerns. And my understanding, having spoken to solicitors yesterday at a residents' meeting for Lancaster West residents, not for the tower survivors, was that the question of whether or not people would be moved out of the borough has been answered. I have not seen any written confirmation, okay, but I understand, having spoken to the lawyers, that there has been a guarantee that people will not be rehoused outside of the borough. On the ground, though, having been based in Bay 56, I've heard of people having been moved out. I have no actual evidence of this, it's anecdotal, but from what I understand, the borough have made a commitment not to house outside. So I would suggest anyone who has concerns about that to get advice from North Kensington Law Centre or the CAB or Shelter. The three organisations are working in partnership to deliver civil law support to all residents, basically evacuees and survivors who have concerns. And we do need it in writing, I agree, and I haven't seen it yet, so it might be worth us pushing to actually ask for a policy document in writing, giving that undertaking.
So the next question is from Andrea on behalf of the community.
We understand that this has been an unexpected and tragic crisis. Who deals with this sector in the council, and why was an organisation on the help on the ground shown on the first day, if not on the second, with a strategic plan?
Well, I can't answer this fully, but there was a response on the first day because some of our environmental people were there. I think what we're hearing is that it wasn't what you expected and it wasn't visible. And I think everybody knows that now. The councils are organised in particular ways. This will come out eventually. There will be an inquiry and you will find out how things are organised locally here. And I think, all we can say, and I'm not part of the local government bit, but whatever went on here on the first couple of days wasn't visible to you. And that's a huge learning for people, but that didn't work.
What did actually go on? What did actually go on? Could you explain what did go on, please? Could you explain what did go on, please?
Yeah, so I can explain to you what
these gentlemen were doing.
Not what the council, because I can't explain that. But what I can tell you is that the environmental assessment was going on right away about, and that's something I can talk about later on, about what was going on with the smoke and the flame. So that was certainly being, sorry.
What, to affect the rest of London or for this community?
For all of it, yeah. Well, I can tell you that now, and I don't know why they didn't, but they should know. Yeah. So the air, we're monitoring the air all the time, and the air from this will not affect your health. Yeah. Okay. So maybe we should answer that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So do you want me to answer that question, and I'll come back to it when your convener tells me to. Okay.
Okay, so let's get through these and then maybe we can come back to it. ISIS is going to come back to that because I'm aware of the cyanide and the things that we've been hearing about. So the next question is on behalf of Grenfell Walk, and Savannah is going to ask this question.
People with disabilities have been placed in different areas that they are not used to. They now struggle to get out and about. The people that care for them daily may have to travel further. Why has there been a lack of help and funding for those disabled and those who look after them?
That's a good question. And actually what's happened is horrendous. Again, I was at a residents' meeting and heard of somebody yesterday who was trapped in Barrington Walk, who can't actually walk, and they can't get him out because apparently the debris is all over the space. From my understanding again, what is supposed to happen is that anyone in this situation should go and speak to one of the lawyers. Shelter and the CAB have said yesterday that they're having people move, and so what's happened is I think people have been dispersed. The council, as we know, didn't do what they were supposed to do. Consequently, people are in all sorts of places. They're not recorded, and we're finding out every day we're finding people who are in this situation. What we're advising is that people contact immediately a lawyer and get the lawyer to go through to the council, because apparently even at Westway Sports Centre, the council had their representatives down there. You literally walk across to them and say, this is the situation, this person has to be moved immediately. It apparently has been working, but if the lawyers aren't aware of where the people are and the help that they need, they can't help them to access it. So unfortunately, a lot of it is falling to the survivors and the evacuees to actually be aware of the help that's out there. And one of our roles in the community as residents is to make sure that people know that they should not be in any, for example, if you have a disability, you should not be above the first floor. It has to be disabled access. If you have young children, you're supposed to have enough space for them. You're not supposed to be in one box room sleeping in a bed together. So all these things that are not acceptable have to be brought to the attention of the lawyers. And unfortunately, the disregard of this council is that when tenants, residents, survivors have been contacting them, they're not being contacted back. They're being ignored. And unfortunately, our voices aren't being given any respect. And it takes a lawyer's voice and a threat of legal action for them to act. But that is unfortunately the reality of the situation that we're facing.
Yeah.
So, question 4. Oh, no. So, the next question is going to be asked by Sophie, and it's on behalf of one of the residents on floor 4.
For those placed out of their parking zone, people having to pay parking tickets to park their cars every day, why hasn't the council organised that these people receive a permit for the area that they're staying in?
You know, it hadn't even occurred to me until I just heard this now. Yeah, you know, like many of you, I'm a resident, and to be honest with you, I don't even know what to do with this question. It's absolutely ridiculous that people have been placed in this situation. I mean, all I can say is horror.
Just off the top of my head, wouldn't it be worth getting the tickets, and then obviously when the letters come through, you reply, oh, we don't have no. No, not to pay it, but I'm saying.
Don't do that. Put them in a big box and send them back from Grenfell.
There's no other places to do that.
Collect them.
From what I'm aware of, there are some people that don't have no money to pay for these tickets. Self-employed people can't even go to work, so they're not having. People can't pay. No, because no. I know there's one particular person I'm aware of. They was told they got paid 1 day parking, and they told they would have to pay for the rest of the week and then be reimbursed. When are they going to be reimbursed?
This is a red herring. Why are we talking about
Okay, I don't have the answer to this, but what I can do is tomorrow I can speak to one of the lawyers and actually take this question forward and ask them, because again, as I said, our voices aren't good enough. They don't listen to us. But if a lawyer rings up and says, hang on a minute, what is happening about parking tickets, and I will get a response, and I then will have to work out with someone here how to get that response out to the community, because this is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I think what it is as well is I might actually go to the Westway where the council is seated and go and get myself a lawyer, so I'm listening to, and walk with the lawyer over to the desk and say this lawyer is going to ask a question on behalf of our community because of this parking situation. But yeah, the idea is to get it done as quickly as possible. No, RBKC have got people in Westway.
So why do they should be here, innit? Yes. About their lawyers at the moment. They're going to protect themselves.
No, I hear you, but all I can do is try.
It's true, there should be a legal team down here now. It's like, where is everyone?
No, I know, but you're making absolute sense.
It's like literally like they have to fend for themselves.
It seems that the council, when everybody needs them, have gone hiding. Of course. But this is. I feel like let's stick on these questions so we can get through them. But I feel that all that can really be done is legal, because that's all that they're going to really respect. So, of course. Okay, so the next question is on behalf of Grenfell Walk, and Lexi is going to ask you.
Why is it that residents are having to call up council hotlines when they're being told to check out? Why is the council not more organised with a structure in place to let residents know in advance, not on the day of checkout? Also, why are residents being moved in the early hours of the morning? 2 o'clock in the morning, someone that I've been in contact with, council knocked on his door, they asked him to come downstairs, there was a cab downstairs and he was moved at 2 a.m. to another hotel.
That's disgusting.
Why is that?
Shame on them.
Again, it's another question that we don't have the answer to, but again, it's something that we can bring back with the support of obviously legal aid and solicitors. So we will note that question and we will try and get an answer to you.
The brother standing there has made a point, which is that it sounds like the only way we're going to get a lot of the answers that we want is through legal action, or the threat of legal action, because clearly until their head is on the block and the axe is coming down, they're not engaging.
Okay, so the next question is from Lexi again, and it's from the people who are on floor 18.
Lucky they survived.
Floors 18 and 15, you place people in hotels that only serve breakfast. They have no access to other food. Why? No fridge, no means, no microwave, no means to cook any food.
It's disgusting. What the fuck is wrong with these people? What the fuck is wrong?
So some of these questions that are being asked, clearly they can't be answered today, and I think that maybe next time we do this, which I think we should bring whoever needs to answer the question, we should make them fear for their job if they don't come down and speak to the people.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to be here, but they keep hiding.
Drag them out.
Can I just let you know, Nick Paget Brown, who's the leader of this council, who's complicit for this crime against humanity, he apparently tendered his resignation, but it wasn't accepted.
What?
So he's still in, well, because you just said at the back, and it's true, if these people all just neatly resign, who's going to be held accountable? How are we going to get criminal prosecutions for what's happened? I know, at Grenfell Action, we know the residents did, yeah. Exactly. Can I just say one other thing as well, just for people to be aware? On Sunday, we were supposed to meet with a representative of the council at Kensington and Chelsea College to talk about coordinating what's going on the ground. And a man turned up representing the representative of the council and informed us that the council had been told not to meet with us. They'd been given legal advice not to meet with us. Okay?
Well, only somebody who's guilty went hiding. So, the next question is going to be by Raja, and it is on behalf of Grenfell Walk.
This was another question directed to council. Why would you assume that it is safe to go back to your homes if you live in the surrounding area? Surely there are hazards and chemicals floating around, especially if it decides to rain and release more hazardous fumes.
Can you touch on this one?
Okay, so I'm sure nobody should be asked to go back to somewhere where it's unsafe. So that's the right answer. Just in terms of the environment, this is a slightly wider answer. On the when the fire got first, there's two issues in the environment here in the first was when the smoke came went up. People were worried about what was in that and where it went. Because of the weather on the day, it went straight up and it went out and dispersed. So the particles in that, there were few particles, there were mainly smoke particles going straight up into the atmosphere. The atmosphere has been monitored every day since, and during the time, all the time. It's constant monitoring. And that was dispersed. In the meantime, we've had a heat wave, and we've had a temperature inversion, and there's quite a lot of air pollution around. So, I'm a public health doctor. Yes, you can actually every day get pollution reports, and so we can tell through Kim or whoever sorry, that keeps blowing up in the end, where you can get that. Now, the pollution that's in the air is not as a result of the smoke plume, it's as a result of other stuff that's going on all the time. What people might be worried about is, we've had a question about asbestos. Is that something that people might want to know about? Yes, in cyanide. So, the cyanide, we'll do that quickly. Cyanide burns in the smoke and dispersed very quickly and has been monitored. And that is gone. It's not something that people need to concern themselves with. It's very unlikely that anything outside the cordon actually is toxic. That's as of now, but what I want to assure you is that there's constant monitoring going on. Also, people going into that building they have protective clothing, but they also have monitors on them, so they're watching what's going on in the building. Now, there is some asbestos in the building. It's mainly in bundles, in ceiling, and in air cupboards, in airing cupboards. That's where it was. Quite a lot of it, because of the heat, will have burnt off completely, but there is still some. And the first risk is to the people going into the building still. I'm happy to take a question in a minute, but I just want to finish this sentence. So they will be protected, but also they'll be monitoring the furthest. When the building is being handled, it will have to be very carefully engineered to ensure that asbestos is properly handled. And that is the commitment, and that will be the monitoring. But it hasn't happened yet, so we're still on this journey. Yes, madam. Well, what they have inhaled, not at the moment. There'll be nobody monitoring them at all. However, we've asked the question about what risk to their health there would have been. there would have been small amounts on the day because they would have had irritation from. I mean, obviously the people who are most, the people who are most affected were admitted to hospital, but the people who are in the vicinity would have certainly had some irritation. But what I've been asked to tell you, and I understand. Sorry, madam, do you want to? That's what I'm coming to. The long-term prognosis. Yeah. Yeah. So the information I have at the moment, and I think this really should be reassuring, is that the risk from that to you is minimal, absolutely minimal. And first and foremost, it's from the evidence we have. For instance, there's a lot of evidence gathered from the Twin Towers when they went down. And that was, they were much dirtier buildings. There was a lot more asbestos in them. There's a lot more dust in the atmosphere. And they've been followed up, and the long-term effects from that have been minimal. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just keep it with you unless you want to come down.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yes, but you know, I'm trying to be honest with you.
There's quite a lot of people talking from the crowds. That's maybe why you can't hear Diane.
I'm trying to be as honest as the evidence allows me to be at the moment. What I do commit to you is that we will continue
just
to
watch my
monitor
bag
the environment.
while I'm live streaming.
It is important for me to hear these concerns, because I will then need to convey them to the scientists to say, you know, is it enough to monitor the environment? Do we need to do other things? But I still would say to you.
I need to ask a question. Sorry, hold on one moment. I was on the scene, one moment. Hello, just one moment. I just want to ask a question. I was on the scene from 12:30. I was the first nurse that responded to this call.
Yes.
From 12:30 to 9:30 the next morning.
Yes.
I've had a sore throat ever since. No one has checked me. I'm an oncology nurse, so I understand the long-term ramifications and the palliative care. Who's going to check me out?
Right. So the advice that the NHS have given us is that in the first instance, NHS 111 will advise you, and they will should be able to.
Last night and they asked me if I have a fever. No, I don't, but I've got a sore throat. I'm a nurse, I understand. My throat is not something real bad. And then I say, oh, woe is me.
No, I don't think so. And our advice would always be, if you're concerned about something that is lingering, you first and foremost must see your GP.
And I've done that.
Good.
So let's keep it on track. Just in that question, I've got another question, and I think everybody will want to hear the answer to this question while we've got you here. All of the other building blocks that must have asbestos in them, what, like, shall we talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that. There is a register of all buildings that have asbestos, and that register is known in London. So every council will be checking the asbestos in the buildings. Now, I can't answer
people trying to listen.
Blocks, but there is a register of whether there is or isn't asbestos in those buildings, and that the councils and the people who, the engineers and the safety officers will be looking at that. My understanding is there isn't, that this was the one that had the asbestos, but that's something obviously that will need to be checked. It's a good question. Yes, I think you will find it out. The register, I don't have access to it, but some of the scientists do, so access can be had. I think you need to be able to interpret what is actually written in there and what's being said, but yes, I don't see any reason why that, and it certainly will be in the public inquiry. So, but just so you know, there is a register. People do know where asbestos is. It's not in newer buildings. It's not used. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
If you can't hear this,
so the
woman
question
saying
is
people
about
have been having recurring
headaches.
headaches.
Bear in mind a couple of things. First of all, people will be very stressed as a result of this, and that itself can cause headaches. People will have been very dehydrated over the last week because of the weather.
People have been complaining about permanent sore throats and recurring headaches. They're worried about the burning of the chemicals and cyanide and how it's affecting their health.
But if they continue, then again, I think people do need to see their GP just to make sure that there isn't any other,
been checked out by anyone?
reasons for this. It could be that something else is happening that they associate with this, but
try and
it's not.
flush it out.
So it's really important if they're worried.
I'm live streaming, is that right?
Yes, and this brings up the whole issue of mental health and the following on. So that is certainly a reason why you need to be present.
Okay, so the next question is going to be asked by Hannah on behalf of residents on floor 4.
Disgusting.
No, yeah, Hannah too.
I mean, no one's actually talking about the health implications yet.
Do you
really
think it's appropriate
No, they don't want to scare anyone, make everyone angry.
They're just abandoned, just trying to shit, haven't they?
Yeah.
see the tower on a daily basis, so they just play down.
Yeah, because it won't happen for a few years and then you'll be fucked by then.
Happened with 9/11, it all came and transpired like 2 years later.
What transpired 2 years later?
Like the whole health problems like cancer.
Oh, right, yeah.
I mean, personally, I don't think it's appropriate. Whether or not the powers that be care about or care enough about the people here to bother about whether they're concerned with the trauma, because another concern that I have is the post-traumatic stress that a lot of people have, having seen what they've seen
I think
and
it needs to
having
be
to do
more
with
like
what they dealt
diverse
with.
tactics of
And
like
we all know,
they're not
coming from a
responding.
working
It's
class
like,
background myself, that we don't usually get the therapy that we need. We don't, like, nobody's really looking after us like that. So, I mean, one of the things I'm trying to do personally is to arrange a group healing therapy session where there'll be free food and everybody can just come together and talk, not about what we're all going to do, but how we all feel, so that it doesn't pop up on the tube or on the bus, or when someone says the wrong thing and you end up, you know, we don't need to be getting locked up anyway.
Stress. Yes, about time.
I'm going to try and do it with some of the people in the local area, just because I don't think the government really care. But when we do that, you'll all be invited, and we can try to heal and kick out the Tories. So the next question is going to be asked by Helena, sorry, it's written really small. And this is on behalf of the residents of floor 4.
What will happen to the tower, and how will you liaise this with the residents?
Left up there as a reminder.
So in regards to the tower, we don't actually have an idea. The council haven't said in regards to what they're going to do with it. Me personally, living in the local community and seeing that ablaze when I woke up, the first thing that came to my mind is that needs to be a safe place for the community. I don't know who owns the land. I don't know if people are trying to benchmark it to get poor people out and get rich people in, but that's a community space. It's always been there, and it's always had social housing and local people living in there. So when I saw that building, the first thing that came to my mind is, if they thought they were going to get it and move us out, we need to make sure we are keeping that space one way or another. So just in regards to that, I've seen on TV, I don't know if you guys have seen BBC SOS, where they've gone recently and redone a whole street for war veterans in Manchester, etc. I thought we need something on a grand scale of similar to that, because this is an international atrocity. So I don't know if you guys seen Nick floating about, who's come down to have a look and see what he can do. He's got the resources, he's got the manpower, but he just needs the feedback from the residents. It's not for me. I don't live as close and locally, so I don't want to be the person that says this is what we want. We need you guys, we need your vision, we need your voice to say what it is you want to do. But on top of that, we need to understand that it's still quite new. So that's not going to be at the front of people's minds at the minute. So we need people to have time to grieve. We need to then be able to make those decisions, and as I said, we have contacts where we can make things happen, and we just need you, the people, the local people, to say what it is, and we will do our best to make sure we get your voices heard.
I think rather than a public inquest or an independent inquiry, we should have a criminal investigation.
Yes.
So the last question is going to be asked by Faz, and it was to be directed at the police commissioner, who decided that he was too busy for you guys. But he will give his answer in writing. So this is the question that's going to be asked and answered in writing.
Hi guys. We've had reporters dressing up as priests, and some have been dressing up as suspicious people, offering money to children in the lobbies. And trying to talk to them in the hotels and ask them what's happened. My question is, why is there no security in place for all of these residents in all the places that they stay?
So from what I can see, there's been poverty porn, there's been tragedy porn, and there's been all kinds of people who don't even live in this area. I just live down there, who don't even live in this area, trying to come down and take pictures and make Instagram stories like it's fun. And that I think needs to be, I mean, there's not much you can do about that, but you can make sure that the children are kept safe. Tell them, if you're speaking to any police, if you're speaking to any reporters, then one, they should run it by their parents first, but two, not everybody is representative of everybody in the area, and everybody has their own feelings, their own agendas. But what I can see happening is the media at the moment is being saturated with all of these stories of people who are obviously angry, annoyed, hurt, destroyed, and it seems to me like they're trying to deflect from what has happened. All of the people who are supposed to be responsible for what went on are all going missing until some next story comes up in the news and they can pretend like this thing doesn't exist. So I think that everybody here needs to keep the unity that they had in organising all of the donations for the victims, and as we've gone on, we've realised that there's all the people that are supposed to be missing. We know what's happened to the people who are supposed to be missing, and one thing I think that should happen is, as you start to realise, as the council and whoever start to shut down the donation places and lock that down, and all of the people who really put together to organise for the victims, now they really need to organise together to make sure that there's legal justice and the people who are trying to go hiding are brought to account for this, because in the media all we're being shown is a burning building, while they're hiding bodies in other buildings. The right questions are being asked, but the right people to answer them aren't turning up. So the same unity that you all have here, it needs to be kept. I'm going to try and organize some of the young men in the area so that anytime the residents and members, victims, families and victims want to protest, then we can make sure that there's security there and you guys are safe from the police, and you're also, there's not that one fool that says rush the doors just because they're on their own agenda, and then what? And then what happens once the doors are rushed? Like, it needs to be organized. It's better to have, you know, it's better to have 100 people standing silent and organized than 1,000 people causing chaos. You know? I'm sorry that all of the right people didn't turn up. We know what it is. Like, I'm just gonna talk to you on a real. We know what it is. We know the right people are trying to make sure that they don't get prosecuted. But don't let Theresa May and then people there say, let's have a public inquiry, which they are dictating what happens within that public inquiry. There needs to be a criminal investigation. These people need to be prosecuted, and they need to go to jail. Because if you knock somebody out down the road there, then police are going to come and try and lock you up. But they knock out a whole building, and we've seen on the 21st, I think, the 21st of May 2014, they deposited the application for the demolition of the building. So they've been trying to knock it down. Well, what do you think is going to happen with the building now? So what you were saying about keeping the space is a necessary thing. We can't let them take that space, and even if it means we have to put our own bodies in the space when they come down with bulldozers and whatever, then that's what we need to do. I wouldn't trust any of the people who aren't from the area coming down and acting like they care now. I wouldn't trust them. Like, don't let them dictate your narrative.
Right. I've come down here because I actually care. I came down on the first day. Yes. I came here because I care.
I'm talking about the media. I'm not talking about just any people, working class people who come from other areas.
But the media only tells
Yeah. The thing, and this is why I would try and stop. This is why I would try and stop speaking to the media, because we need to create.
Be careful of the lawyers. They want to represent. They just want their name. They want this to be their case. Yeah. Don't sign a thing. Don't allow law firms to come here and try and censor.
That's right. Okay. So just in closing, I'm gonna pass the mic to Eartha, and then I'm gonna bring it all the way down so that everybody can kind of say their closing points. And we're gonna do this again, and we're gonna try and bring the right people here. I think one of the things we can do is we can use our own media. So we have social media, and we can use our own media to make sure that the people who are trying to hide are brought to light. So we're going to put their pictures.
Name and shame,
As a community, there have been serious challenges. The problems in this community has been since this tragedy, people have landed on their feet running. And there's been different groups pop up. One meeting here, one meeting there, one meeting there. What we've been trying to do is harness all of the voices, get them all together. This meeting should not have been taking place today. It was done underhandedly because we tried to bring all these groups in. No one notified us that it was happening, yet they led us to believe that they were part of what we were doing. What we will not have are people posturing on the back of people's deaths to present themselves as community leaders, because they're just as exploitative as the lawyers. What we've tried to do is form the infrastructure of that will form the body of the campaign. There's not going to be any leaders in that. All we're doing is getting the administrative structure in place so that when people have issues, they can come in. If people want to volunteer, there's the infrastructure ready to sort of take them in. This community is still in mourning. People are still missing. Families are still grieving. We as a community are still trying to figure out what's going on. So we have to speak with one voice. The plan why I'm annoyed that this meeting happened was because the idea really was to harness all of these voices first. We shouldn't be parading ourselves in public. This is pornographic. This is what's been happening to the victims. The victims have been put in front of vultures. So when that man who made the comment about the lawyers, he's right. The lawyers they're being paraded in front of.
He's right though. They'll suck out the money.
As much integrity and validity.
No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. No doubt.
But Ishmael is right. We subordinate to the victim.
I said this to the community. I said this to the community. I haven't come in. I haven't come in to advise.
The manner you articulated it is deeply offensive.
Madam, I apologize. I apologize.
Okay, let me just bring this back to where it was, and then if Ishmael wants to speak afterwards, I'm sure we can speak.
Okay, so I'm going to keep this short and sweet, really. We just heard from the gentleman that this is a massive tragedy, and for me, the definition of tragedy is something that you don't expect. This is something that the people of the tower expected. They wrote about it, their voice wasn't heard. They said there was going to be something terribly wrong that's going to happen unless they do something about it, and nothing was done. So that's not a tragedy. They expected something like this to happen. Secondly, people talk about corporate manslaughter. To me, that's not corporate manslaughter. That's corporate massacre.
Yeah.
That's on a grand scale.
Economic terrorism.
So just to be clear, the purpose of this meeting, as we said at the beginning, was to hear the voices of some of the people that we've been working with on the ground. It doesn't seek to give you all the answers. We just wanted to hear, and as you heard, people here represented the people they've been working with and that they've had questions from. The idea is to have a unified movement, and we are in the process of achieving that. But as has quite rightly been said, this is a national tragedy. Well, it's more than a tragedy, actually. I mean, there's not even words for what's happened here. This is unprecedented. It's mass murder, exactly. Yeah. We in the community, though we have lots of skills, we're not, many of us, equipped for this sort of managing what's happened here. And what we are doing is we're pulling together and using our strengths to try and do the best that we can for the victims, the evacuees, and our community as a whole. We recognize we need healing, we need organization, we need unity. So what I'm saying is one of the most important things is that we find things that we all agree. And I think the first thing is that this is murder. This is like institutional terrorism, what's happening. Yeah. And that the second thing is that we agree that we are a unified community, and were it not for all of us on the ground doing all that we can, nothing would have happened, because we invited the TMO, we invited the council here, they didn't come. So just the message is, let's stand together, work together, and make sure that the people in here are never forgotten.
And in regards to public health, and thank you for coming down, in regards to public health, is there anything you want to say in closing, or any advice you want to give to the people who live in this area?
No, I don't think I can give you advice. I think the community has the strength itself tonight. But I just do want to say thank you for asking me.
So imagine what they're doing for what they were doing.
Woo! Woo!
It's not an emergency, I don't know why we're all running. Oh, right, okay. Of course, of course. It seems like maybe this has been organised to break up this meeting, but... Okay, so 2 seconds. Alright. Okay, guys. Everybody here, we can just close this meeting and the fire people can wait. I'm sure it's not an emergency. I don't know why we just jumped up. Okay. Just in closing, my last point to close is that the solidarity that you have for the victims, the anger, the frustration, the hurt, the emotion that everybody has needs to be channeled in a way to make sure that people are getting locked up for this, that people aren't going to get away with this, because as we said, people are going to try and resign, they're going to try and go missing, they're not in their council building, they weren't here on the day afterwards when it happened, they weren't here on the day after that, they weren't here on the day after that, and without the community, more people would have suffered. So everybody needs to stay working together and make sure that you stay on the same page. There's nobody with their own agenda, and this should be organised for the victims and the victims' families first, before anybody else, before the media, and to support the survivors and to honour the dead. But thank you for all coming, for coming down, and we're all volunteers here, so we'll try and do this again and again and again.
Also, can we thank her, please, because she's the only one that decided to show up rather than the council, the fire brigade, or the police.
Okay, so that's the end of the community meeting. So I'm going to sign off now. I need to go and find my son, he's over there. Please check out the whole live stream if you can, because some really important points were raised in regards to health. Residents that were only down around the fire for around 20 minutes have been suffering reoccurring headaches and permanent sore throats, and that health issue hasn't been really raised or kind of picked up on properly yet. So yeah, it was a really interesting meeting, and points, even though I've been down here regularly, points have been raised from the residents that I wasn't aware of and that I hadn't heard anything of before. So, anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope it's given you more insight. Thank you.